What's going on, y'all? It's J Small Reviews here, back at it again with another video, man. And I think when you guys are going to be seeing this, it's going to be a full week from the last upload that I had. Combo of different reasons for that. One, just been busy with life. Two, NBA playoffs, which I kind of gave you guys that warning when it came around. I was going to step back a little bit. My heart is with basketball right now. Go Celtics. I could talk about that for 8 hours, right? But this is a battle rap video. And then three, there just hasn't been a lot of like extremely rap relevant shit going on in the last week or so. I mean, you go back a week, last weekend, I first days of the playoffs went to Clippers and Nuggets. OT Thriller was a great experience in person. But even outside of that, I was just busy with other life things that are not things I like basketball or battle rap. But I know that the Mean 3 event, I think it was called, happened in Pittsburgh. Twerk versus Real Deal, which was a pretty good battle. Didn't get to do a review for it, but pretty solid joint. I think there was a couple other battles in there. I can't think of at this exact moment. I just saw today, like a couple hours ago, Trenches versus Bags and Bodies. They were yelling in spaces. It's a day of the week that ends in Y. I'm not, for someone that loves theme cards, I'm not too interested in that, mainly because I'm not that interested in the Bags and Bodies roster, to be honest with you. They got a couple good names on there, but overall, I'm not really moved by them as like a crew that's battling all these different crews. I know Clone with his whole situation, if he told or not, and Bullpen Men, ever since Cassidy did that nonsense robbery, thievery, scamming to Bullpen, it's been bad over there, man. The footage never came out from that. John was kind of alluding to Bullpen like just being done. Bad news, the situation comes out. Clone's got this situation. It's doom and gloom. It's dark over there. You know what I'm saying? But that's really been, I mean, those have been some of the biggest topics, but there's one thing that did spark a little bit of, I think, an interesting conversation here. And as you can see, this is going to be a Goodz Book'em video. My opinion, the next 5 best matchups for Goodz, who has not been outside a minute. You know what I'm saying? I feel like, was the Calico battle the last battle he was outside for? We're talking about Max Out 3, right? And I still think there's a ton of great stylistic matchups out there for him, and I think that Goodz is a very unique legend. The conversation that brought this up was the superstar talk, which I won't go super in detail with. It's extremely nuanced. No one has the same definition. I do feel like a few things compound into making you a superstar, but it started with Twerk saying that Goodz isn't a superstar. Now, the reason he kind of got shot himself in the foot is then he turned around and said, Eunice is a superstar. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? You cannot say Goodz definitely isn't. And then I think Eunice got a lot of potential. I think he's a great young talent. I don't think he's anywhere near superstar level right now. Because when you do say something like that, you think of Hitman Holla, Sue Surf, Murda Mook, Loaded Lux, who are kind of, even if you have more people in there in a class of their own in terms of an event within an event when they pop out. I debated some more names in there, but that, like I said, it's a different topic for a different video. But it made me realize that there is all these great matchups out here for Goodz, and he has not been outside a minute, but yet I see a lot of chatting, and I am excited to see him get back in the ring, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, or just a bunch of talking and not really any rapping. So I have some interesting matchups here that I think would be good for him, and we could start out right at number 5. And starting out the list at that 5 spot, and anyone that's watched this series knows that the 5 spot for me is the one that I think is the least likely to happen. I try to base these lists on realism, but stylistically, I just think it's a really cool matchup and I wouldn't be mad at it, and that is Goodz versus Ill Will. And to me, this is more of a testament to how Will is really a chameleon in a sense and can just blend to any matchup and make it make sense. He's an all-around battle rapper. If you want him to battle a performance-based battle rapper, look at what he did versus Hitman Holla. Look at what he's done versus Shotgun Suge. You want him to battle an angler? Look at the performance that he was able to give against T-Top. If you want to battle a puncher, his Big K battle, his Rum Nitty battle, his Av battle. We can go back to performer, bring up the Tay-Rock battle. Granted, he lost, but obviously it's a classic piece of history. You want him to battle like a Super Pen? Look at what he did versus Daylight. Look at what he just did versus Jay the Nightwing on Apollo, being by far the best battle of that weekend, in my opinion. He just has that ability to get in any type of bag. And I think it's a little bit more of an interesting matchup with Goodz, being that there's not as many battle rappers that are as laid back as Goodz. And I'm not saying that it needs to be a mirror match in a sense, right? But kind of, when I always say many times in this channel, when two battlers share the same strength, when they battle, it emphasizes what they're already really, really good at. And I think that Will kind of has that ability maybe to match Goodz in some of those aspects while still being a little bit more all-around gifted. punching more than typically like a Goodz would. Maybe that ability to angle at each other a little bit of comedy in there. I don't, Goodz I think uses kind of like a stale form of comedy really well as a battle rapper. So I just think it's one of those, if Goodz versus Ill Will popped up, it's not built up like some of these others we're going to talk about, but I don't think it's a matchup on paper anyone would be mad at, especially with Will after all that critique for last year, even from himself. He said it was his worst year. Will, I think you've done worse. I thought his 2024 was not just the worst thing ever, but coming off the Jay battle, I'm not mad at seeing Will in any big matchups. I think Goodz versus Ill Will would be all right, man. So from there, we go to number 4, and number 4 is, to be honest with you, probably the biggest matchup, but we don't know what this person's situation is going to be when they return to the sport. But I've been doing kind of like a process of elimination of what would make most sense for the return battle. And if you haven't guessed it already, at number 4, I have Goodz versus Sue Surf. Blockbuster, you know what I'm saying? And speaking a little bit to the superstar conversation we had earlier, I think the biggest piece of factual evidence that supports Goodz being a superstar is the fact that he, like very few battle rappers in history, averages over 1 million views per battle, right? So he does have this kind of undeniable star quality. Main evented on the first no. Guy's been a main eventer since main eventing was really a thing. And out of all the opponents that Surf kind of has that he could battle, trust me, I think everyone would rather Surf versus Mook or Surf versus Easy. But the only person, 2 people that said they would battle Surf in the return and haven't denied it, or have made some like crazy obligation that's probably not going to get met, it's Danny Myers. We're not getting Sue Surf versus Danny Myers. And then it's Goodz, who I think can match on that star quality kind of basis. And some people just think, and I think rightfully so, that nobody stands a chance versus Surf in the return. But Goodz is one of, if not the most winningest battle rappers of all time. I have him losing quite a few debatable battles, to be honest with you. But in terms of not losing clear, Goodz is like one of the absolute best at that. So I think it is a formidable challenge to throw that way. Him and Surf have had a grudge for quite some time. I just don't know immediately when Surf's going to hop in the ring, what opponent we're looking at. There is better matchups out there. This is more if they can't land the plane on that. Goodz seems like the most sensible opponent. I want Goodz versus Sue Surf at some point, and you could debate it could be higher in terms of excitement. Like I said, it's going to be probably the biggest matchup I could mention here. But for all the logistics and thinking about how it will go together, I'm just not quite sure yet. But Goodz versus Sue Surf, classic grudge match. The return of Surf, possibly versus the return of Goodz. A lot of cool things meeting up in the middle there. And I think their styles can play off each other well. They're both very good as anyone from the golden era, golden YouTube era, and Goodz obviously a bit before that is from really great rappers. Signature flows, only sound like themselves absolutely to a T. I think they could have a great conversation. So with that being said, we get into the top 3 here, and I want to say all 3 of these I think are like realistic next matchup as opposed to the first 2. Not that I can't see him ever battling. I gave my reasons for the Surf and Will battle, but for these 3, I think are likely one of these 3 is going to be his next battle. And this one was number 1 for me for a very long time, last couple of years, to be honest with you. However, I think the other matchups I just prefer a little bit more right now. This guy's got a lot in his plate, and he's some big battles coming up. I'm not sure where his stock's going to be after, and obviously that seems to play a huge factor into a Goodz battle right now. But that is Swamp versus Goodz, which I like a lot because I think they both kind of live on the outskirts of like our regular battle rap style categories when it comes to like pen, performer, puncher, angler. They have the ability, both of them, to do all those things, maybe aside from the pen thing. Obviously neither of their strongest traits, but their styles are outside of that. A lot of pulling from life content. Goodz, obviously, with the money talk and the boss talk. I think Swamp gets into the drug talk quite a bit, even though Goodz obviously has the ability to do that as well. And I also like the clash of kind of their sound. So they both have these like abstract styles that they make really good, but you have this deep South sound with Swamp as opposed to this like as New York as it gets type of approach from Goodz. I think they would just have this battle where they really talk to each other. You know what I'm saying? I think they have that ability to break each other down too, but not their angling and character assassination, maybe more of like picking apart each other's persona. I just think Goodz versus Swamp is really good stylistically, and Swamp is nearing the top of his game in the last couple years, right? But He took some losses to start the year. The easy battle's coming up, which I think is going to be a great battle, but the closer we get to it, I'm feeling even more and more confident in my easy to block captain pick. Then he's got A-Ward after that. The chess battle was good, so I just want him to have like proper momentum, and I think these couple other battles have maybe more of a grudge to it, make a little bit more sense, but I'm still a really big fan of Goodz and Swamp and would love to see it. And then here at the number 2 spot, they have been talking, both the 1 and 2 spot have been talking back and forth with Goodz very recently, but I do have Goodz versus Big K. Now, this is probably the one that mirrors Goodz' style the most, because I think Big K, while he is a puncher and now really more of an angler than anything, right? The way that he gets into his flow pockets and can kind of be laid back, he might be the only other person short of like a Jay the Nightwing, and for obvious reasons that didn't make, I'm gonna let you know that's not the number 1 pick here. I don't know how I feel about like a super pen heavy battler versus Goodz at this point, right? But I think Big K can kind of get in that laid back bag, kind of match energy there. I think there's something cool to be done. I would love to see him angle against Goodz. Goodz' counter arguments back. I think that they both have the ability to do a bit of money talk, a bit of drug talk, get into some pockets. I think Big K is going to bring more of the punching, kind of a little bit of a wordplay aspect, while Goodz will have a little bit more of that performative crowd controlling side. They've been going back and forth forever. There's some people that think Big K and Goodz would be like not a good battle. I just don't. I think is the best style matchup for both of them on the table. The reason I have the next battle at number 1 is really more because of a grudge than anything, because that does sell things, but I love Goodz versus Big K. I'm heartbroken the RB went away when it did, because it could have been one of the last big battles it threw out there. I do not want this battle in the full circle. It deserves an actual venue and a real battle rap, man. There's no other way to put it. I'm not a big fan of that. Very vocal about how I feel about the full circle setting, even though I have so much love for RB's catalog and what they've done. But I think Goodz versus Big K is great. They're talking greasy to each other, and I think the battle would live up to the shit talking. With that being said, number 1's really no surprise. We need Goodz versus New Jersey Twerk. It feels like it's almost been close or bigged up a couple times. It's one of the last legends it feels like New Jersey Twerk has out there, besides like Hitman Holla. There's probably a couple more we could come up with, but Goodz and Hitman feel like 2 of the last check marks for Twerk. And out of all the opponents Goodz has went back and forth with while he's been on this hiatus, he's had a lot to say about Twerk. Obviously, that's kind of the inspiration for this video, is them going back and forth and him being like, saying Eunice is a superstar, I'm a bigger superstar than you. They're going to have a bit of a star clash. Now, a lot of people think Twerk is just going to walk through Goodz, and he's done that to a couple of legends. So this is not impossible, but I think Goodz would be amped up for it. This is the type of guy who said, I want to surf on his return. He does not lose clear very often. Now, to be fair, before the Calico battle was easy, which he did very much so lose clear, so it's obviously not impossible, but I think he'd be like super motivated for this, so you'd get a very, very good Goodz, and then New Jersey Twerk in one of these big legend matchups, especially one where he really doesn't seem to respect the style of the other opponent and thinks he would walk through him. That's what battle rap's about. Who's better? I am going to kill you. I'm so much more of a star. You could do absolutely nothing with me in a crowded room. I think this is a big stage type of battle. I think, who knows, I'm hearing Gnome is in New York, right? So I wouldn't be mad at Twerk and Goodz. You know, we'll see if it'll happen that soon, if it could get put together. But I think Twerk and Goodz is kind of the obvious next battle for Goodz, just because of how much shit he's talked. The star New Jersey Twerk is, the threat and danger that would kind of build it up to like Goodz is returning. He's got as good of a fight as he can find. And for me, that's why Goodz and Twerk probably should be the return battle for Goodz and his next battle in battle rap. And with that being said, that is my full list here for my next 5 best battles for Goodz, my Goodz Book'em video. Let me know what you guys think of the list down below. Just to go over it again: Ill Will, Sue Surf, Swamp, Big K, and Twerk. Let me know what you think his record would be across those 5 battles, and which of those 5 would be best next, or another battle you think would be best next that I didn't mention here. I know some people want Goodz and Kid Slade. I think that's super unrealistic, and I will always say it is unfortunate Kid Slade did not end up being the superstar he was supposed to be, and he got kind of derailed, because it really would be a perfect matchup to the point that some would still want it. I just don't think tiers-wise it would make any sense, then obviously for other reasons. I mentioned him versus Jay the Nightwing, another one where I think energy would match up, but while Jay is building there, I think Jay is probably a couple battles away before we're getting like the super hard to get rarity legends. It's almost like Pokemon with your rare legends, right? That are going to pop out. And you'll be able to get those battles. But if there's anyone else I didn't mention, especially at a top tier level, please let me know. And I think It's all very interesting. I think Goodz would be a good return. I think the more I look at it, it's hard to say that Goodz is not a superstar. It just feels different when it's those legends that pop out rarely compared to guys who are consistently getting cards built around them. But that's why there is the nuance. That's why there is the conversation there in such a debate. I think that's been like the best battle rap based topic of the last week. We are going to have, obviously Trenches is coming up. I'm going to have one more video, I think, out on Easy and Swamp before that battle comes out. TBL just announced the card for May, so I'll be doing my predictions for that. So still some content on the way. It was just a quieter week while there was nothing but bullshit going on. But as more raps come outside, J Smo comes outside. That's just simply how it goes, man. But it's been J Smo Reviews again here, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.